Hey everybody, welcome to the Mana Leek. I'm John as always, and it's Monday. That means it's time for the Red Kaladesh set review. This, of course, is a limited set review talking about draft and sealed, not talking about any of that constructed stuff. That's for other people, or perhaps future me to do, depending on some things. We'll see about that. Anyways, we're going to jump right on into the first card here. If you need disclaimers about this set, you should have watched the previous ones. You should have watched the previous ones anyways, because why would you just watch one color? That makes no sense. But into the first card. Up first, we have Ether Torch Renegade. Ether Torch Renegade is 2 and a red for a creature human rogue at uncommon. It's a 1/2. When Ether Touch Renegade enters the battlefield, you get energy, 4 energy counters. Tap, pay 2 energy. Ether Torch Renegade deals 1 damage to target creature. Tap, pay 8 energy. Ether Touch Renegade deals 6 damage to target player. I think this is the card that determines exactly how viable energy is. I think this is kind of the lightning rod that I'm going to watch to really figure it out. 4 energy is a really nice boost, and the energy abilities here are rather nice. I've been told that I've been underestimating energy production and seen several people suggest that any creature that gives energy is playable because it gives you energy, and I really strongly disagree with that. As I always say in these reviews, don't play bad cards to enable other cards. Shard of Broken Glass and Shadows of Innistrad enabled Delirium, but it was never correct to play it because it was bad, and there are other ways of doing it. So I don't agree with this creature makes energy, therefore it's good. It needs to do more. This guy produces 4 energy, which is pretty good, but you will need more energy production beyond that for this to move beyond good for me. Just like the Genjit Sentry, I really dislike that this guy alone only provides 2 pings, and then you're done. You need more energy. And so you're going to need to either A, somehow be producing energy left and right, and there's honestly not a boatload of easily accessible ways to just produce a ton of energy. You're going to have energy for sure, but I don't know about just producing a ton of it. And like Genjit Sentry, this is an ability that if this was in any other set and this was tapped to do it, you would be doing this, and you want to do this ability all the time. You want to constantly be doing this ability. You want to constantly be tapping something down. You want to constantly be pinging something. You want to constantly be milling 3 cards off the top. And the fact that you can't do that unless you have solid energy production is what makes me kind of slightly be cautious about energy on creatures like this. Now, the 8 energy to do 6 damage to me just seems like a total pipe dream. If you're even slightly getting close to that, it's really not hard for your opponent to just say, oh, that's a 1/2? Well, it's dead. I hope you have another use for that energy because this is just dead. So I'm not really in on the pay 8 to do 6 damage to the face kind of thing. It just feels a little bit too glass cannon-y for me. I don't know. This is the energy card that I'm going to keep the closest eye on because I really think that this is the one that's going to showcase whether energy is great or whether it's kind of a nice to have here and there kind of thing. I'm going to start slightly down on this at a C+, which isn't a slightly downgrade usually, but I fully expect a lot of people to be saying, no, this is a solid B, and I just don't see it. So C+, Ether Touch Renegade, I'm going to watch it very closely. This is the card for me to watch to see just how good energy is. Up next is Brazen Scourge. Brazen Scourge is 1 red for a creature gremlin at uncommon. It's a 3/3 with haste. 3/3 with haste? Sold. Totally sold. The red hurts it a little bit, but if you are in heavy red, that's not going to be a problem at all. This will even be decent maybe a turn or 2 late. So even on turn 4, a 3/3 with haste is probably totally fine. It's not a high pick and it's not a bomb, but it is a solid include if you are red. If you're splashing red, if you're like kind of 10 of the other color and 7 mountains, you might maybe want to second guess it. You'll still probably play it because, as I said, it is probably still totally fine on turn 4 and maybe even okay on turn 5. And, in the late game, the haste obviously goes away as being awesome, but it's still a 3/3 for 3. So I'm all in on this as being a C+. I'll play this every time I have it, and I'll pick it kind of mid-pack when it's there. Next up is Built to Smash. We had Built to Last. Well, this is Built to Smash. A single red mana for an instant at common. Target attacking creature gets +3/+3 until end of turn. If it's an artifact creature, it gains trample until end of turn. Giant Growth is always playable. Giant Growth is a single green mana for +3/+3. It doesn't have to be an attacking creature. This can't save your creature from burn, so that's a slight knock against it, but that was always an edge case used for Giant Growth anyways. Giant Growth probably 80 to 90% of the time is just attack you, haha, Giant Growth. If you do hit an artifact creature with this, you get some trample damage through, which is really nice. I don't think that's required for this to be a decent combat trick, but it does bump it up slightly. Just seems like a totally solid combat trick that you'll include the first one of as long as you have a good amount of creatures. If you're like really heavy mid-range or control and you're in like the 13 or 12 creature area, you might not play this, but if you're a typical 15 or higher creatures, you'll always play the first one of these, and you'll take it, late mid-pack. You don't take combat tricks that highly, so C+ for me. Up next is Cathartic Reunion. Cathartic Reunion is 1 and a red for a sorcery at common. As an additional cost to cast Cathartic Reunion, discard 2 cards. Draw 3 cards. This is okay, I think. We've had Tormenting Voice a lot lately, and before that we had Wild Guess, both of which were discard 1 to draw 2 for 2 mana. So paying the same price, but needing to discard 2 cards to draw 3, I don't know, it feels a little bit costly to me. And there'll be way too many situations where you just won't be able to cast it because you won't have 2 cards in hand. It'll be awesome to fill your hand by pitching a couple of lands if you're late in the game, but I don't know. I'm really iffy on the reliability of that happening. I'll keep an eye on this, but I'm going to start it at a C-. I think it is a worse Tormenting Voice just because requiring you to have 2 cards in hand to pitch is a lot more of a cost than requiring you to have 1 card to pitch. So C- for Cathartic Reunion for me. We are 4 videos in and we haven't gotten a Planeswalker yet, but let's change that, shall we? Chandra, Torch of Defiance. You've all seen this card already anyways, but Chandra, Torch of Defiance is 2 red for a mythic Planeswalker Chandra. She starts with 4 loyalty counters. Her +1 says, exile the top card of your library. You may cast that card. If you don't, Chandra, Torch of Defiance deals 2 damage to each opponent. Her other +1 ability is add red to your mana pool. Her -3 is Chandra, Torch of Defiance deals 4 damage to target creature, and her -7 is you get an emblem with whenever you cast a spell, this emblem deals 5 damage to target creature or player. I mean, this is a set review, so we have to talk about this card, but it's an A+. There's just no question there. But, we need to talk about it. I need to earn my ad revenue and all that jazz. Her +1's amazing. Her first +1 anyways. It fixes everything about the exile a card and cast it right now effect that I really don't usually care for by giving you value even if you don't cast it. I hate this ability in red because so frequently I'll flip a card and be like, oh, I can't or don't want to cast that, so bye forever card. Whereas this, if that happens, I can still just do 2 damage. Her other +1 helps ramp, which is also solid. If you're not just a low-cost aggro red deck and there's stuff past Chandra, 5 and 6 drops, then this is great. Paired up with green, you should be getting some ridiculously ramped creatures early. If you need to, Chandra can defend herself instantly by just snap killing an X4, which is another solid key part of a Planeswalker, being able to defend herself. And her ultimate, which is only 4 turns away, will close out a game very quickly, if not just the turn you ultimate it. There's just no way you're not ever not taking her, unless there's like a foil copy of her in the same pack, maybe? Just an absolutely solid A+. There's no way it's not. A+, take her, play her, just A+. Up next is Chandra's Pyrohelix. Chandra's Pyrohelix is 1 and a red for an instant at common. Chandra's Pyrohelix deals 2 damage divided as you choose among 1 or 2 target creatures and or players. This is Twin Bolt. Exactly. This is a functional reprint of Twin Bolt, just with a little bit of Kaladesh plot-specific flavor attached to it. This card's solid. You'll take it highly, but rarely ever first pick, and it'll do just solid work for you, picking off X1s or X2s, killing creatures post-combat, even just killing your opponent. Welcome back, Twin Bolt. You're great. You're totally fine. To B- for me, it's never a first pick. But mid-pack, even high mid-pack, you see this, you take it, and you always play it. B- for Chandra's Pyrohelix. Next up is Combustible Gear Hulk, the Red Gear Hulk. 4 red for an artifact creature construct at Mythic. It's a 6/6 first strike. When Combustible Gear Hulk enters the battlefield, target opponent may have you draw 3 cards. If the player doesn't, put the top 3 cards of your library into your graveyard. Then, Combustible Gear Hulk deals damage to that player equal to the total converted mana cost of those cards. Like all the Gear Hulks, really, this one's just super solid. A 6/6 first strike for 6 is pretty unheard of, to be honest, especially with a massive upside attached to it. Getting to Ancestral Recall in red is crazy. And if your opponent chooses to disallow that, getting to hit them for some amount of damage is also super solid. Yes, you could whiff and hit 3 lands and do no damage to them, and, then you just have a 6/6 first strike sitting there, plus 3 lands, 3 garbage cards that aren't going to do you anything at that point in the game sitting in your graveyard. That's a horrible place to be. There's no way this isn't just a snap first pick, and unless you somehow go from picking this and ending up in a super low curve deck, you will never cut it. This just feels like another A+ to me. Combustible Gear Hulk, A+. Up next is Demolish. Demolish, we just saw you in Shadows over Innistrad. 3 and a red for a sorcery at common, destroy target artifact or land. Obviously, this is going to be better in Kaladesh than it was in Shadows over Innistrad, where it was pretty arguably an F. I mean, technically a D. You could sideboard it in, but I never did, and yeah, just no. This will be a great question to start with Kaladesh. Is Artifact Hate main deckable? And how main deckable? Is 3 red for sorcery speed artifact removal main deckable? I doubt it. I just have a feeling there's going to be way better ways to deal with most artifacts than using this. Same with Fragmentize. I think Artifact Hate will have a place, but I just think that most artifacts are not going to be threatening enough to side in a card that is otherwise dead or dead-ish until you see that specific threat. So despite the fact that we are in Kaladesh, I think Demolish is still just going to be a D, a pure sideboard card that you probably just shouldn't main deck ever. And the land destruction part of it, garbage, total garbage. Next up is Fateful Showdown. Fateful Showdown is 2 red for an instant at rare. Fateful Showdown deals damage to target creature or player equal to the number of cards in your hand. That went down a little bit. Discard all the cards in your hand, then draw that many cards. Well, it came back up a little bit, I suppose, but I think I am out on this card, and it's the 4 mana that really kills it for me. I'm not going to pay 4 mana for doing less than 3 damage or so, and even that's kind of a hard sell. 4 for 3. It's a far cry from Lightning Bolt. Having to have 3 or more cards in my hand in red by turn 4 at the earliest, that's just not going to happen in most games of Draft and Sealed. This is just way too overcosted to really be decent. Sure, sometimes it'll be nice late in the game to just load up my hand with lands, pitch them, do some damage, and fill my hand, but that's 1 out of dozens of scenarios where this card's just mediocre. I'm going to leave this to other players to play unless I see a deck that it truly works in or am proven wrong, but I'm going to start on a D+. I don't think it's good. I feel like it's a trap. Next up, we have Furious Reprisal. Furious Reprisal is 3 and a red for a sorcery at uncommon. Furious Reprisal deals 2 damage to each of 2 target creatures and or players. So this is literally just 2 Chandra's Pyrohelixes stapled together. It's double the cost, it's double the damage. I guess you still only get to hit 2, you don't get to hit 4 different things. It still seems fairly solid. 4 mana for 2 shocks, which is 1 and a red for 2 damage, is obviously, twice as expensive as that. But it only costs you 1 card here. Note that it does require 2 targets, so in the incredibly strange, unlikely scenario that you and your opponent are both at 2 and there's no creatures on the board, you can't cast this unless you want to cause a draw, but that's a massively edge case. This card just seems fine to me, totally fine. I would be happy to relatively highly pick it. It is still a little bit overcosted for me, but high enough to be an auto include, so B- for me on Furious Reprisal. Giant Spectacle is next. Giant Spectacle is 1 and a red for an enchantment aura at common. Enchanted creature gets +2/+1 and has menace. Once upon a time, there was a card called Madcap Skills. It was this card, except it was +3/+0 instead of +2/+1, and it was obnoxious. For being an aura, while still in the era of rather plentiful removal, it was just an insane beating. Now, +2/+1 is much worse. If I'm giving something menace, I want to be all in on power. I don't need that extra toughness. My intent is that this isn't going to be able to be blocked, at least for a few turns. Still, I do expect this to surprise some people with its power. I expect it to be a little bit more powerful than anybody's going to give it credit for. Not anybody. Anybody who was around for Madcap Skills should instantly recognize this. But if you're in red and you're thinking about aggression and this is there in the middle of the pack, pick it and play it. You will be shocked by how this card can really kind of go off if it plays anything like Madcap Skills did. And for anybody who is thinking that this format is blisteringly fast, this is a card you're going to desperately want. I don't agree that it's going to be desperately fast, but I agree that decks will kill me very quickly by playing this card. So I'm going to go with a C+ on Giant Spectacle. Up next is Harnessed Lightning. Harnessed Lightning is 1 in a red for an instant at uncommon. Choose target creature. You get 3 energy. Then you may pay any amount of energy. Harnessed Lightning deals that much damage to that creature. Yeah, Lightning Strike is solid, and this at a minimum is Lightning Strike. 3 damage for 2 mana at instant speed. It's first pickable when there's no bomb in the pack. The added versatility of using this maybe as an expensive shock, or just as a single 1 damage and pocketing the extra energy for later, or using up some saved energy to do 4, 5, 6 damage for 2, just seems amazing. It doesn't hit players, so keep that in mind, but still pick this very highly and always play it. Seems like a solid B to me, maybe even a B+. Hijack is up next. Every single set has to have one. 1 red for a sorcery at common. Gain control of target artifact or creature until end of turn. On tap it, it gains haste until end of turn. This is called a threaten effect, because there was a card called Threaten that was this card. It was 2 in a red and didn't hit artifacts, but otherwise it was this card. Now, frequently in the recent history, we've seen these threaten effects have +2/+0, +1/+0ing trample, first strike. They've gained some power. They've gained an ability in addition to being stolen for the turn. No power boost, no nothing, and it costs 1 red, so it's harder to cast. That's boring, and already I don't like threaten effects. I lose to them, and I hate losing to them, but I just rarely can bring myself to play them. I played Malevolent Whispers because it was a nicer one, +2/+0 and threaten, plus you could instant speed it with madness. But this one, I'm on the C- train for it. I don't like threaten effects, and if I'm not getting any incentive to play it, no power or anything extra, I'm really hard on the C- train for this. I'll cut it pretty reliably. If threaten effects are your jam, you'll go a little bit higher on this, but for me, C-. Next up is Incendiary Sabotage. Incendiary Sabotage is 2 red for an instant at uncommon. As an additional cost to cast Incendiary Sabotage, sacrifice an artifact. Incendiary Sabotage deals 3 damage to each creature. So this is like a Shrapnel Blast, which was sack a artifact to deal 5, crossed with an Anger of the Gods, which was 1 red, 3 damage to everything. I suppose that's fine. It's pretty reasonable. I think that you'll have some sort of artifact in this format, of course. We've talked about this ad nauseum. If you're in Fabricate, you're going to have servos. Just in general, you're going to have some artifacts anyways because of how many there are. As always, I'm going to remind this to everybody. Don't play bad cards just to enable things. Don't load up on puzzle knots because you think you need artifacts. Please play good cards to enable other cards. Like Anger of Gods, you'll want to play this in sort of a mid-rangey type deck. Where you'll want to be dropping some X4s at some point that live through this, or you'll want to be sandbagging creatures back so that once you wrath the board, you can then rebuild right away. Leave this out of your low curve decks where you'll be hurting yourself just as much as your opponent, or sandbag in preparation, but still decent card overall. I think it's like a B-. I think there's definitely some decks that just don't want it, and then other decks that are going to be pretty happy to have it. So B- for Incendiary Sabotage. Up next is Inventor's Apprentice. Inventor's Apprentice is a single red mana for a creature human artificer at uncommon. It's a 1/2, and Inventor's Apprentice gets +1/+1 as long as you control an artifact. So the best case scenario is that we have a 2/3 on turn 2 if we somehow dropped a 1 mana artifact. It's not really enough value for me to want to play this, I don't think. This gets outclassed really quickly, and it doesn't do anything other than be a 2-3, which, I mean, just isn't exciting. It gets outclassed by everything on turn 3. And if you stumble on getting your artifact, and you play this as a 1-2 that does nothing, no, this is a hard cut for me. A C-. I'm going to cut this the vast majority of the time, I think. I don't see a place for this. Even if you're, artifact.deck, I don't really see a place for this. So, C-. Lathnu Hellion is up next. Lathnu Hellion is 2 and a red for a creature Hellion at rare. It's a 4/4. It has haste. When Lathnu Hellion enters the battlefield, you get 2 energy. At the beginning of your end step, sacrifice Lathnu Hellion unless you pay 2 energy. I do not know about this. I mean, yes, you're getting a 4/4 1 turn early, although 4/4s for 4 aren't terribly common, but you get it for 1 turn, unless you've already had some solid energy production going, or you're about to get some on the turn after. If there is a solid energy production engine, and I know there's some, but it exists so heavily in the uncommon and rare slot that I just don't know, and I know I'm getting trashed for not being super high on energy, but I just think that it's not going to be necessarily easy to get all of the energy that you think you will get. I just don't think it's possible. So I don't know. I don't see this being super amazing. I see it being a hasty 4/4 that frequently is just going to be around for a turn. You'll get 2 attacks out of it, I guess, because it has haste, but then it's just gonna die. So I don't know. I'm kind of on like a 3 mana. I guess I'm on like a C+ on this. It still does work pretty well in an aggro deck to smash in with this twice. At worst, you'll hopefully get a couple blockers out of the way or something, or kill a 4/4 or a 4x. So I think it's fine. I just don't think that you're going to be able to just jam energy into this every single turn without restraint. So let's go with a C+ on Lathnu Hellion. Madcap Experiment is up next. It's 3 and a red for a sorcery at rare. Reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal an artifact card. Put that card onto the battlefield, and the rest on the bottom of your library in a random order. Madcap Experiment deals damage to you equal to the number of cards revealed this way. No. No. You would need to be a seriously artifact-dense deck. I'm talking, I don't know, 15 artifacts? 16? I don't know, something like that. Insane. And if you hit a pocket of land, oh boy, you are just going to take a bunch of damage. I feel like realistically there's just absolutely zero deck for this card in Limited. It just does not exist. If there is, I'll be glad to be wrong, but I do not see it. This card seems like a hard F- to me. You're not going to make this work. And then it's a dead card if you're like below 10 life or so, because who knows what you're going to hit. No, just no. F-. Up next is mallfist doorbuster. Mallfist doorbuster is 3 and a red for a creature human warrior uncommon. It's a 4/2. When mallfist doorbuster enters the battlefield or busts through the door, you get 2 energy. When mallfist doorbuster attacks, you may pay 1 energy. If you do, target creature can't block this turn. This energy guy I really like. I'm not a big fan of the Miller or the Tapper on Tapper or the Pinger, just because those are abilities that you want to use constantly. And as we've talked about, I doubt the ability to have enough energy at a constant rate to be using those every single turn. But this guy, this is an ability that you generally don't need to use every single turn, even if you're not attacking, whereas the other ones you do. This guy you use here and there when it works, when it makes sense to punch through the damage. He's a 4/2 for 4, which I've talked about not being a fan of before, but shutting off a blocker should help its case. I think this will shine in an aggro deck and be a very solid pickup. If you're not in an aggro deck or headed that way, then this is extraordinarily more cuttable, so don't just jam this in every red deck. But I'm a big fan of this guy. I'm going to go B- on Mallfist Doorbuster, assuming an aggro deck, just because this is the energy guy I like. I like that I'm going to have probably enough energy to use this the number of times that would be appropriate, unlike how I think the Tapper will be, and etc. So B- for Mallfist Doorbuster. Up next is PNLR. PNLR is 2 and a red for a legendary creature human artificer at rare. She's a 2/2. When PNLR enters the battlefield, create a 1/1 colorless Thopter artifact creature token with flying. Pay 1 and a red. Target artifact creature gets +1/+0 until end of turn. Pay 1 generic mana, sacrifice an artifact. Target creature can't block this turn. So this is a 3/3 for 3 with 1/1 of it being a flyer. That's that's decent enough. We all remember Girapur Gearcrafter and Sandstep Outcast, so we know that she's at least a B- or so. Do the abilities increase her? I don't think so. The fire breathing's overcosted, so I just don't see that being worth it. It will be nice to make that Thopter bigger here and there, but double costed fire breathing never quite gets there for me. Target creature can't block isn't that amazing either. This is not Whirler Rogue, giving unblockable until end of turn. This is 1 creature can't block. So, I don't know. I think I'm just going to be sticking at a B- with Mama Chandra here. Probably not first pickable, but sometimes can be in the right pack. I think she'll mostly just function as a Girapur Gearcrafter or a Sandstep Outcast with an extra toughness. So, B- for PNLR. Up next is Quicksmith Genius. Quicksmith Genius is 2 and a red for a creature human artificer at uncommon. It's a 3/2. Whenever an artifact enters the battlefield under your control, you may discard a card. If you do, draw a card. That's what we call rummaging. It's a 3/2 for 3 that'll sometimes let you rummage. Not much else to say there. You'll play this when you have it. You won't go out of your way to pick it. It's ever so slightly than the normal 3/2 for 3. Solid C+ to me. There's not really much else going on here. Just, yeah, C+. Next up is Reckless Fireweaver. Reckless Fireweaver is 1 and a red for a creature human artificer at common. It's a 1/3. Whenever an artifact enters the battlefield under your control, Reckless Fireweaver deals 1 damage to each opponent. I foresee a fun fringe deck here. Kind of servos artifacts aplenty with these guys and just flooding the board with meaningless artifacts to burn out your opponent. Because these are common and, spoiler alert, I don't think very playable, you could probably get like 5 of them and then just like 10 puzzle knots and just burn out your opponent. In reality, I think this is a relatively mediocre and probably almost a sideboard card if you find yourself needing an early blocker. It's a 1/3 for 2, which is just never really great, and the ability is just gonna... it's probably rarely going to make or break the game. So C- for this. I think you should cut it pretty regularly. Please let me know if you do draft like 5 of them and go off with it. But realistically, C-. Renegade Tactics is next. Renegade Tactics is a single red mana for a sorcery at common. Target creature can't block this turn. Draw a card. No, not even with replacing itself. This effect is just so weak. I don't see a deck that wants this. Even an aggressive deck would just prefer another creature rather than this card. Seems like a straight up D to me. If this was target creature can't be blocked this turn, it would be a little bit better. But target creature can't block this turn is just so meaningless on a card. On mallfist Doorbuster, which is a 4/2, it's a lot different. But on just a card that draws a card, no thanks, I'm out. Solid D. Next up is Ruinous Gremlin. Ruinous Gremlin is a single red mana for a 1/1 creature gremlin at common. Pay 2 and a red, sacrifice Ruinous Gremlin, destroy target artifact. Just kaboom. Yeah, this is interesting. It could make your main deck if artifact hate is really, really something you want, but as we talked about with demolish, I still think bad artifact hate is going to be sideboard only, and this is bad artifact hate. It's a 1/1 for 1. It's just not something you should ever really be playing. I doubt the ability here could ever make this be considered amazing, so I'm gonna keep this in the sideboard. Remember, you have it in case you're up against a Gear Hulk or something, but otherwise, D+. Following the Ruinous Gremlin are the Salivating Gremlin. Salivating Gremlins are 2 and a red for a creature gremlin at common. They are a 2/3, and whenever an artifact enters the battlefield under your control, Salivating Gremlins gets +2/+0 and gains trample until end of turn. This is interesting. With an artifact drop, it's a Trampley Brazen Wolves, which was a really solid card in Eldritch Moon. Without an artifact drop, it's a 2/3 for 3, which is really mediocre. I think that makes this around like a C+, assuming you have a decent number of artifacts. I'm thinking like 7? 6 or 7, something like that. Without the artifacts, you're looking at a C to C minus. So I'm going to say like C minus if you're below 6 or so artifacts, and C plus if you're above. So salivating gremlins seem good. They're like brazen wolves. Up next is Skyship Stalker. Skyship Stalker is 2 red for a 3/3 creature dragon at rare. It has flying. You can pay a red to give Skyship Stalker +1/+0 until end of turn. You can pay red to give Skyship Stalker first strike until end of turn. You can pay red to give Skyship Stalker haste until end of turn. That's a lot of choice. A 3/3 flyer for 4, totally fine. And if you want to cast it for 5, you can have a 3/3 flyer for 5 with haste, and that's also totally fine. I'm in. I'll play this every single time. Fire breathing's a fine enough addition. Real fire breathing, not 1 in a red fire breathing. It's always better on a flyer, like good old Shivan Dragon. Yeah, the first strike's a nice addition as well, meaning that if you're having to tussle with something in the air, you can still probably just kill it with a combination of fire breathing and first strike. First pick seems like almost bomb level. In fact, I'm willing to just say it's bomb level and give it an A minus. Yeah, Skyship Stalker, really good. Up next is Spark of Creativity. Spark of Creativity is a single red mana for a sorcery at uncommon. Choose target creature. Exile the top card of your library. You may have Spark of Creativity deal damage to that creature equal to the exiled card's converted mana cost. If you don't, you may play that card until end of turn. No, thank you. I've never really cared for this red card advantage ability in Limited. We've talked about that. It just never really gets there for me. Being a single red mana, all right, I'll probably get to play the card that I reveal off the top. Maybe. Sometimes it might just be a land. The damage part of it, I don't play Hearthstone. I don't play cards that may or may not kill the creature that I target. Who knows? We'll find out soon. No. I will not be playing this card. I am totally out on the idea of randomized damage. No, just no. This isn't Hearthstone, this is Magic. Up next is Speedway fnatic. Speedway fnatic is 1 in a red for a creature human piloted uncommon. It's a 2/1, it's got haste. Whenever Speedway fnatic crews a vehicle, that vehicle gains haste until end of turn. If there's a vehicle deck, this will help it out. And we'll talk about vehicles in a couple of days. I don't think there's a vehicle deck. I think vehicles rapidly fall off. I don't think you want to be putting a bunch of vehicles in a deck. So this is really kind of a hasty piker, a goblin piker, a 2/1 for 2, that will likely get in for 2 damage in a lot of games when you play it, and then drop off really quickly, as goblin pikers usually do. Ultimately, I imagine this is just pure filler in most decks, so I'll give it a C. You should cut it if you have something better. Otherwise, you can play it if you want. And if you have a really good vehicle that really wants haste, I guess, but we'll see if that happens or not. Up next is Spireside Infiltrator. Spireside Infiltrator is 2 in a red for a creature human rogue at common. It's a 3/2. Whenever Spireside Infiltrator becomes tapped, it deals 1 damage to each opponent. This is so much better than that black 1/1 for 1 with the similar effect that it's insane. This isn't great, mind you. It's still a mid-pack pick, but I think it's a C+ that you'll always play if you have it. It's a 3/2 that kind of attacks like a 4/2. Obviously doesn't if there's a creature in the way, but it will do 4 damage if it's unblocked. If it's crewing things, cool. You're going to crew 3 and get in a ping damage. That's cool. I don't think that its best use is to do that. I think its best use is to simply just attack with it. But I'd be very happy playing multiples of these in a low curve red aggro deck. I'm all in on a solid C+ for this. Up next is Spontaneous Artist. Spontaneous Artist is 3 in a red for a creature human rogue at common. When Spontaneous Artist enters the battlefield, you get energy. Pay energy. Target creature gains haste until end of turn, and she's a 3/3. I don't know if I said that. Yeah, so this is a 3/3 for 4 with haste if you want to use that energy right away, and that's fine. It's not exciting, but it's fine. We saw a 3/3 with haste naturally, which was probably slightly better, but this isn't double red, so you know. The versatility here, though, deciding to not give it haste and saving that for later is really nice. I don't know if you'll ever really go off with this to any greater extent, because how often are you needing to give multiple creatures haste? But still, this just seems like a nice creature to have around, and a nice little energy sink that will get you some bonuses here and there. Plus a 3/3 haste for 4 is always something that I'd generally look at playing, so seems like a solid C+ to me. Up next is Start Your Engines. Start Your Engines is a sorcery at uncommon for 3 and a red. Vehicles you control become artifact creatures until end of turn. Creatures you control get +2/+0 until end of turn. Like Speedway Fnatic, I feel this entirely depends on how viable a vehicle deck is. This could be a solid finisher, letting you attack in with a huge force that your opponent might not expect, given that you would have to tap some creatures to turn your vehicles online. This will probably be a deck, and people will certainly try it. I've seen suggestions that Start Your Engines is as good as Duskwatch Recruiter, which is wrong. I'm pretty sure that's wrong. In an average deck, I think this effect just isn't big enough at sorcery speed to be worthwhile. It's kind of like a mediocre Trumpet Blast. And yeah, as I said, I don't think you can jam your decks full of vehicles. I don't think you can. I don't think it's reliable enough to do that. But, you know, this will still at least function as a sorcery speed Trumpet Blast, which will be okay and will win some games if you're going a little bit wide, but it still is a C-. You should cut this somewhat regularly. Up next is Territorial Gorger. Territorial Gorger is 3 and a red for a creature gremlin at rare. It's a 2/2, it has trample, and whenever you get 1 or more energy, Territorial Gorger gets +2/+2 until end of turn. This feels like a bad rare to me. I mean, you could go off with this if you have multiple ways to generate energy and get this up to a 6/6 or an 8/8, but come on, let's be realistic. We're paying 4 mana for a 2/2, and we hope that sometimes it'll be bigger for a turn. I don't see that being a thing that's going to be what I want to do. I'm out on this card. I don't think it's good. Like, you play a creature and you get an energy, and hey, there you go. You have a 4/4 trample. Cool, that's worth 4 mana. But there are going to be turns where that doesn't happen, and just blah. If you can build a really cool sort of energy engine where, like, you get some energy and maybe you use one of the modules and that causes you to get another energy, and now this is a 6/6, then some things could happen. But I just don't know how often this is going to be bigger than a 4/4. And I think it's going to be a 2/2 a lot of times, which is not worth 4 mana. So, yeah. I'll keep an eye on Territorial Gorger. I'm ready to be wrong on it, and I'm sure I'll lose to it here or there. But I just think, in an average case, across, you know, every match of Magic that has ever played with a Territorial Gorger, I don't think it's going to be that great. I'm on a C- to start with Territorial Gorger. Next up is Terror of the Fairgrounds. Terror of the Fairgrounds is 3 and a red for a 5/2 creature gremlin at common, and that's it. This is identical to Cobble Brute, this is identical to Hulking Devil, this is identical to every single 5/2 for 4 that has been an F in every set ever. Do not play this. I know it's 5 damage, and that sounds awesome, but it's 2 toughness, it dies to everything. I lose to this probably 1 out of 20 matches, but it's never correct for my opponent to have played it, even though they won with it. Terrible, absolutely terrible. It trades down so poorly. F. Don't play Terror of the Fairgrounds. Up next is Thriving Grubs. Thriving Grubs is 1 and a red for a creature gremlin at common. It's a 2/1. When Thriving Grubs enters the battlefield, you get 2 energy. When Thriving Grubs attacks, you may pay 2 energy. If you do, put a +1/+1 counter on it. Yeah, this is the 3/2 version of the 2/3 rats. Like this whole cycle, if you have energy outlets and producers, these get better, and if not, it's a pure filler card. I'm ready to be wrong about these, but I just don't see it. The work and value that you have to put into these to get vanilla creatures just doesn't seem worth it to me. The fact that they're a Goblin Piker, you know, without spending energy, so they're a Goblin Piker that gets you 2 energy, is fine. So while I'm out on them, I'm out on as high as people were on these to start with. There were people saying this is like, oh, it's a B-, it's amazing, and that's not true. I think it's totally a C. This is probably one of the 2 that I'd be the most happy to play because it is just a Goblin Piker at its worst case that nets you 2 energy. And then it can get better from there. So I'm willing to give it a C, but I'm not going to go much higher than that. I'll play it a good deal of the time. So C for Thriving Grubs. Up next is Wayward Giant. Wayward Giant is 4 and a red for a creature giant at common. It's a 4/5, and it has Menace. It's a big dumb creature. This is the token curve topper game ender if you didn't manage to get a real game ender. You should generally avoid playing this if you can help it, but it's there if you need it. Slightly more playable in sealed, where you're simply less likely to be guaranteed to have a solid game ender. Cut it liberally. Hope that you're not often in a situation where you have to play this, but if you are, here you go. So C-, kind of a definition of a C-. Our final red card is Welding Sparks. Welding Sparks is 2 and a red for an instant at common. Welding Sparks deals X damage to target creature, where X is 3, plus the number of artifacts you control. So at a minimum, we're looking at 3 damage for 3, which is fine. It's kind of what we're used to nowadays for burn, so I think this is 100% playable with 0 artifacts in your deck. Having a few artifacts in your deck will make this, 4, 5, 6 damage and become totally fantastic, especially being at sorcery speed. Doesn't hit players, which is a shame, but I feel like that would be broken because you could just go fabricate, you're dead, and that's not good design. This feels like potentially just the best red common, and it feels very first pickable. I would be very happy to have many Welding Sparks in a limited deck, but even the first one I would be very happy to see. Solid B from me. So that's going to wrap it up for red. Red looks pretty good. Red looks pretty good to me. It's got a lot of really solid burn at instant speed at that. It's got some really bomby creatures. It doesn't have too many terrible cards. It does have Madcap Experiment and the typical 5/2 for 4, which is always bad, but it seems really solid to me. I think it's going to be a nice aggressive color, but also a nice sort of burny mid-rangey color. I'm excited to play red. I think red-white could be quite good. I think red-black could be quite good. I'm excited to give red a try. Let me know what your favorite cards are in red. Let me know what cards you disagree with. Let me know anything you feel like letting me know today down in the comments below. As always, if you feel like supporting me financially with the cash monies, you can go over to patreon.com/themanaleak. I've got some backers there, and they are amazing for being early adopters of the Manaleak's Patreon. But if you want to join that early adopter sort of status and get that street cred, then you can head on over there. Any backing whatsoever, $1, $1,000, any backing I super appreciate. But if you do back for $5, you will get access to the Patreon only stream, and 14 will sponsor a draft where you get all the cards that I draft for that Spiky Saturday or Wacky Wednesday. So head on over there if you do want to see the Manaleak continue producing content forever and ever. As always, if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, you can find me on Twitter at the Manaleak. That's LEEK, like the vegetable, not the card. You can also find me at facebook.com and twitch.tv/themanaleak. You found me here on YouTube. Make use of that comment section. Click that thumbs up icon if you like the content. Click subscribe if you want to see more. And if you do have any questions, comments, or suggestions, let me know. Otherwise, I will see you all tomorrow for the green set review.